So what I'm going to do today is change the door lock on this 135 IM Sport Coupe. It's a common problem and the lock fails, makes a noise, doesn't open. Then I'm going to change the membrane because we don't want water leaking in around the edges, and we're going to basically rebond that. So let's get started. First thing I'm going to do is pull the handle off, and I'm not going to damage it. I'm going to use my fingers and plastic wedges where possible just to undo it. Do it on the inside, that way you're not going to damage the outside. That's what I always say. So I always do it that way. That way I don't damage anything and nobody has to pay for a ruined handle. Nothing worse when a customer picks a car up and they've got damaged handle, is there? So I always aim to just pull this out without breaking it. There's the clips, that's the space where you put a tool in. You can always put a screwdriver in, that's what I do. But don't damage it, just to tease it to start with. So on this door panel, what I'm going to now take off, there is 5 screws in total, all torx 20. The first 2 are here. So I'll take these out, and once they're out, I'll then work on the upper handle, which you can see in the image there, and then underneath there'll be 2 more. I'm not so worried at this point if the screws fall out, if they stay in, because they'll come out eventually when I pull the panel off. So I'll pull this off. There she goes, nice and easy, no damage. Plastic tool again, it's my favourite tool, I've got a load of them in my toolbox. Whack that off. Get our torx 20 out. Hopefully we can get this door panel off before morning break and I can have a nice cup of coffee. I always try and get it done before 9 when I start morning jobs. Underneath, I'm going to take the torx 20s out as I just mentioned. That's the second one coming out now. These panels, by the way, they can be really tricky and they very easily break. So when I take them off, I always use this plastic tool. What I do, get it under the bottom corner and give it a good tug, and then just pull it. Don't tease it. I never tease them. I just get this tool in now and then whack it straight in like that. Bang, straight off in one. No messing about. And that's better than sort of messing around pulling like the outer part of the trim, you know, the pocket there. Otherwise you'll rip it off. It's got standard plastic trim clips in with little gaskets. I always make sure I don't lose the gaskets because that's very important. Otherwise you get water coming in through the stud holes where the plastic trim clips go in. So I'll just retrieve them later and whack them on. Peels off from the top on the gutter, some clips there. And again, being careful not to damage the lock rod. Bend it or what like, or it'll just jam in the lock when you build it up. So I'll just pull the wires off now. Nothing really rocket science about that. And then take the switch out because then it's easy to put the window up and down when I'm sort of doing the job. And then basically once this door panel finally comes off, it can be a little bit tricky. I'll start pulling the membrane off. Now unfortunately I didn't record removing the membrane. I actually did record it, but then something went wrong and it cut off. So you just use a knife to get that out. What I'm doing now is any residue left over, you take a piece of butyl, roll it into a ball off the old membrane that you've removed because it's still very sticky, and it actually sticks to the rest of the butyl and it pulls it right off dead easy, because all them bits of butyl I'm pulling off now, as you can see that they come off, they do matter because later on I have to put alcohol on there, R2 Reiniger, which is BMW stuff, and if you don't do that, I can promise you the new membrane will leak at the bottom. Always at the bottom they leak. The R2 Reiniger or any type of alcohol is a must. So here I am pulling out the old outer barrel, key barrel. It's held in with I think it's a 4mm hex. Although I'm using a torx 25, I think. And it pulls out a bit. Sometimes you have to use the key to get a better purchase to pull it out. Then we've got the LED light there and we've got the handle. Just going to pull the handle out now. One side, second side. There's no comfort access on this, which is good. You've no wires then to mess around with the handle. Take gasket 1 off. Being a bit tight, there she goes. Gasket 2. Behind gasket 2, there's a torx 20. That is what holds the inner handle carrier in place. We've got to remove that completely. And then we don't take the carrier out, we just loosen it and push it inside a bit because it's still meshed into the inner door lock via the axle, and that is the bit which is a little bit tricky to sort out, really, to mesh in. It's quite tricky. I will get to that later on in the video. So now we're at the state where the inner carrier has been released, and what we need to do is undo the door lock, which is like held in with 3 bolts which have a Torx 30 head on them. So I'm using my hand there so I don't slip off and damage the paint, because it's very important, because if you slip you're in trouble. So that's the 2 outers done, and the inner I've already removed. Push that, it sticks a bit because it has a foam gasket on. This is the cable, this is the outer door handle cable, and this comes from the outer door handle carrier, and it clips in. Best thing to do here is to get your finger and hook it and give it one quick tug, bang, straight out, no messing. Incidentally, this cable can get full of water and rust and ice up in winter, and you end up with doors not opening or doors not closing. There's the axle. It's a real difficult thing to mesh in, and you just have to persevere and get it in, basically, as you see there when you put the new lock in. Now, they're a bit tight getting the locks out here, so what you need to do is mark up before you undo the 10mm pinch bolt on the vertical stay of the window regulator. Now, this is a rake angle adjuster, so if you don't put that back in the correct place, what will happen is you'll get lots of road noise, wind noise, and in the worst case scenario, water leaks. So it's very important to mark that up and to do a rake test afterwards using some spray window cleaning foam to look at the imprint pattern against the seal. That's a non-official way, but it's the way I do it, and I get a good result. I've never had wind noise, I've never had a leak, and I've never had one come back yet, and I've done hundreds of them. So what we do, we put the new lock in, just kind of get it in any way you can, turn it to the right orientation. And once you've done that, all you need to do is, as you can see, get that axle meshed into that lock before you do anything. It's a little tricky, but no problem. Just persevere at it. And once that's meshed in, only then can you start to assemble it, because you can't assemble it after the fact. That's meshing exactly as that picture in picture just shown you. You'll be in a world of pain if you don't. You'll have to strip it and do it all again. So now you've got your axle meshed into your outer handle carrier. Your outer handle carrier is still a bit loose, but we've got one screw securing our door lock, otherwise the axle will fall out. So we've got one outer Torx 30 holding the door lock on. Then now's a good time, because everything's kind of reasonably secure, is put your cable back in. Now usually I would always recommend replace this outer cable because of what I just said, the freezing in winter scenario. But in this case, customer, it was a car place paying, so they just didn't want to do that. Besides, there was nothing wrong with the cable. It was actually in very good condition, no signs of rust, so that was all right. So we just click that in, top and bottom. And the wiring harness, just make sure it goes behind the foam, because otherwise it'll snag, it could rub, it could chafe, and it could wear out, and then you get shorts and all that business. So the first bit of the cable, trim clip, goes into the front stay of the lock motor frame, and then the back bit goes into the back part of the stay of the frame. Then that's all done. So you've got one screw holding your door lock in. Now you've got to do is now look at your outer door handle carrier, get that secure, handle in, blah blah blah, and let's build it up. So this bit I've just highlighted, that forward anchor has to basically, where my finger is now, where it's highlighted in red, always hook that in. You'd be amazed how many people don't realise that, and they just like sort of do it the wrong side of the metal. So that's hooked in, finger in, it hurts, don't worry, take the pain. That's mechanics prerogative. That there, it's got a nib, it can only go one way. So there you are, can't go wrong with that. Get it in, keep the pressure on, tighten that Torx 30. Tape the door if you need to, because if you slip, it's going to cost a lot of money to repaint a door. Luckily, after 30 years of making virtually 7 million mistakes, I don't make them anymore. No one's perfect. Gasket 1 on, gasket 2 back on. LED light, bit of a faff. It's got a soft foam gel on top which can get damaged, and you can get water ingress into it. So again, don't damage it. Right, now I'm going to show you a really cool tip. How do we get this handle in there? Well, pretty difficult, because the inner handle hook shape is it's difficult to get your finger in. So cotton cord, waxed. If it's not waxed, you're not going to get the string out. And all we have to do, basically, is make a hook, make a loop it around the inner handle. Eventually, as you can see, it takes a bit of practice. Just make a loop. You don't have to knot it. Go to the top bit, because that's away from the LED, and you won't, you're not going to get in trouble then, like jamming against the LED. And once it's looped in, pull it tight. So you're basically emulating the door handle, opening the door. Get it in, pull it as tight as you can get it, and keep the pressure on. Don't let it go until your handle's in place. Not really something I can show without some sort of smaller camera, but there you are. You can see it just coming forward there. It's now pulled fully forward. As you can see, get your fingernails impossible. So back end in, and then just lift it over the LED. Bit of a faff, but no problem. Get it inside, and then you'll see it, and it'll slot, chink nicely in place. It'll feel a bit weird and a bit loose, but don't worry about it at this stage. All you need to worry about at this stage is that you get it in and get it relaxed against the door panel with the string still pulling it. Now you can relax, the handle goes back with the inner hooked part of the handle, so now it's all relaxed now. Don't do anything else, just gently tease your string, and you should at some point be able to just slide your string all the way out nice. You see the wax effect there. Without that you'd be snagging like anything. So you're almost done now. We're almost to the point where we can sort of build this up and get it back on the road. Outer barrel, which is a bit of a weird one because it has a gear mechanism. Usually the axle's built straight in. This is a bit of a strange setup on these 1 series, these F series. So we just slunk that in. It's a bit of a difficult because you've got the LED. Don't force it, just jiggle it. Remember BMWs, you can't force things. Everything has fit precisely. We're not dealing with Nissans where everything just like snaps in place with your fingers, So just tease it. Just tease it in like that. Bang. See you later. You're on. Done. Right, don't forget, we have to now secure that in place. So we've got the outer the outer 4mm hex, which we're now going to tighten up. And then, more or less, we're ready to put the outer screws in shortly for the lock, secure it. Then we can test it mechanically. And then we can test it electrically. And we can build it up in the reverse order. Now, what I must say about these cars, which is very important to bear in mind, which many people don't usually bear in mind, is that you can go at this stage unstuck if you don't take your time and do it by hand. The outer door lock, which I'm replacing, there's no threads basically in the holes for the 3 Torx bolts. So if you're not so good at like getting it straight, you'll really come unstuck if you cross thread it. It won't be very pretty, and you'll have like a big gap on one side of the bolt. So a top tip from me to anybody doing this, any other mechanics doing this, is just do it on the bench first, and you don't need a thread tool, you don't need like a tap and die set and all that business. Just run it in by hand at first, get it nice and square, and then just bottom it in out with drill, or with the drill drive, whatever you've got. Right, looking good now. All we have to do now is put usually a little bit of grease on there, because if we don't put basically grease on there, we have a bit of an issue getting that those rubber stoppers back in for that little seal there, because it is a coupe, but that's why it has this weird rubber thing, because it has no frame on the doors. Just put a bit of silicone in or something like that and whack it in, no worries. So there we've got our 3 bolts in our lock now, and well, we get in there, look, we can see what's going on. We can latch it over with our finger, open it, inner one opens, and then the outer one, we can use a key or something, and that works as well. So basically we've got all mechanical side of it working. So all that remains to do now is, you can obviously test it electrically if you want, but I'd already done that, so I don't need to show you that. Just plug it in, test it with the latch over with the lock before you lock the door. Otherwise you could be in a world of pain if the door doesn't open. There's different types of Butyl. This one is an aftermarket one. It's pretty good. BMW used to do a cotton cord sort of round one, but it were really not very good in my opinion. It didn't spread so good, and it didn't really provide good protection against water, and it used to come off. So this is similar to the BMW one. They have a flat ribbon now with no cotton cording. And what I'm doing is I'm just using my fingers on here, touching it on the outer part of the tape. Don't get your fingers on the inner bit. You might have to a bit, but obviously you don't want to get any grease on there, because that's going to leak. And they do leak. The number one cause of these coming back is leaks. And it's always the bottom, of course, because that's where the water sort of collects. Because these gutters, when the rain goes in, it absolutely floods the door inside. And that's the design. That's why they're all waxed inside. anything here that you don't do right and it's coming back, and customer satisfaction is 100% the most important thing. So basically, you can see we're dropping down nice there now and everything's tickety-boo. And what I'm looking at now is I'm looking at, as I mentioned earlier in the video, I'm looking at the rake angle and I'm looking at the relationship between the glass and the rubber. I don't want anything here that could allow water, wind noise or anything else in, because it's really going to irritate the customer, and I do not want to do this job again. I hate it when stuff comes back. Thankfully, it never usually does. So a bit of attention at this stage is really, really important, and you won't go far wrong. So what can you do? Well, there's an official guide, there's an official way of doing it, and lots of measuring, lots of special tools. But as we know, we are mechanics, we're not engineers. We always have better ways than what engineers do things. So if you get some, this is a Worth product, by the way. It's just a foam, which I'm going to get from my toolbox. It's just a foam glass cleaner. And all it does, it's just a glass cleaner that foams up, but it's really, really useful. When you put it on and you wet it with your finger and you tap it down, it stays almost tacky, if you like, and it gives a really, really nice kind of finish where it just really puts a beautiful pattern on the rubber behind it. And from that pattern, once you open the door, you can assess the quality of the sealing, and as you can see, it's absolutely transferred everything onto that rubber with virtually no breaks in it. So that means it's a damn good seal and it's a good rake, so we don't need to worry about it. I think we're going to be pretty damn good with that one, to be honest. And of course the side is one thing, but the main part of the rake is the top. There we are. Let's put some more on there now, and we'll just double check the top and make sure we get no problems from the top either. That's the part where you'll get most of the wind noise, you see. There we are. Just put a bit more on like that. Just flat it down with your fingers. It's about 1 inch square, something like that. And that's it. Job done. Hope you enjoyed the video. It would be great if you'd subscribe. It will really help me out a lot, help me grow the channel. And I'll see you next time.